Cereal is emotional for everybody.
Today on Straight Talk about smart food, a topic near and dear to our hearts. We're chewing on the question, is cereal still what's for breakfast? Cue up the Saturday morning cartoons. We'll grab the milk.
This is Straight Talk about smart food, a podcast about that fascinating place where food and science intersect.
I still love cereal.
Love cereal. Welcome to Straight Talk about smart food. I am Sarah Fisher. I am the food technology manager at MGP Ingredients. And today we have
Jen Carlson. I'm a senior scientist in product development.
And I'm Rachel Matasic. I am a senior scientist in ingredient innovation.
Awesome. And today we are talking about breakfast cereal. And so that's why we're munching on our favorite breakfast cereal. Yeah, today I have a twist on a classic. That's my favorite right now. Of course, I always eat the classic with my 3-year-old son, too, all the time. So, Jen, do you have a favorite cereal?
No, not really. I tend to fall in two camps, right? If I'm going to eat it for breakfast, it needs to be a little bit healthier. And then I want an indulgence, so I'm going to get what has the nostalgia for me.
I would agree with that. I have two camps of thought, which is what you're saying is if I'm going to start my day with it or if I'm going to use it as like a midday snack to tie me over, I'd like it to be a little healthier. But then if it's going to be a dessert or something that I'm really indulging in, I have a different set of cereal. So I would say like Cheerios are definitely my go-to if it's like a healthy. They have their new Oat Crunch one, which is what I'm vibing on right now.
Yeah.
And then Corn Pops, which is what I have here today, are definitely my favorite of all time, and I will indulge. That will be my dessert. I love those.
So we are talking about a topic that's really near and dear to our hearts. You know, it's something that we grew up eating in the mornings, maybe on Saturday mornings watching those cartoons, and then also into adulthood, I feel like, too. It's a nice, convenient, and easy breakfast to consume in the morning. And now seems like it's going into the snack category, too.
I've seen that trend where it's like, I mean, even when we were kids, right, you saw that as like you get home from school, your mom's still at work, dinner's not till later, and you need something to tie you over. You're hungry right now, right? Cereal's easy. You can get it out of the cabinet. You don't need the microwave. It's easy to do. And so, like, now granted, it was whatever we had, so it varied. Like today, we've got one of my favorites, which is Golden Grahams, but as a kid, it was, usually sheeted cereals.
Yeah. I was going to say also that was like in my household, like we grew up with like cereal for breakfast also because my mom was like, please do not touch the microwave. Do not touch the toaster. She was like, here you go. You can pour milk and cereal into a bowl and that's a good breakfast for you.
Were you ever not allowed to get certain cereals, maybe because they had more sugar in them or it seemed like a dessert
Lucky
for breakfast?
Charms were always like, you're not gonna have marshmallows. But for some reason, Reese's Puffs were okay, even though they're just basically dessert.
Yeah.
I was a weirdo kid. Like I didn't like Lucky Charms actually because I don't like the marshmallows in them. But it was one of those things where it's like I always liked cinnamon cereals or chocolate cereals. So like the what was it? The Dino Bites or whatever, the multi-meal version that we would get. Yeah, that was always like my favorite to just like bowl.
And also with the sugary options, at one point, it's where a lot of the cereals that were targeted towards children, they were reducing the amount of sugar in those cereals. So it really took a little task on food scientists at those breakfast cereal companies of how to reduce the sugar. And also it goes towards bowl life too. So the sugar that's coated on top of that nice breakfast cereal bite, it helps prolong the bowl life. Anybody want to get into bowl life?
Ooh, I can. I mean, bowl life is like how long the cereal stays crunchy, right? When you add your milk. And it's from that first bite to like when it starts to get soggy. And it's not actually all that long. I think it's something like 2 or 3 minutes is the average bowl life. It's not as long as people think it is. And so that convenience breakfast thing and is there on purpose, right? So when you have the sugar on it, you're creating a protective layer or protective coating on it that's soluble, that will dissolve and taste good, but then it also gives you that additional crunch in a way that's a little bit, I don't want to say safer, but it's like you're not talking about a really dense cereal like Grape Nuts, and you're not talking about a really like heavy, like leathery cereal that's like chewy in an unpleasant way.
Yeah.
So some of the studies I've done with Bowl Life, we go up to 5 minutes actually. And even adding FiberSim, so that's one of our ingredients we have at MGP, and it's a dietary fiber, but it's a modified wheat starch. And so by adding just 20 to 30% of this FiberSim into the breakfast cereal, it extends Bowl Life even up to 5 minutes.
I mean, and good for those that want more dietary fiber in their diet too.
Well,
That too.
I think that actually dovetails right into the trends you see in cereal, right? Where it's like, I feel like some of those health trends start in grain products first for whatever reason. Because I remember, like you were saying, calls for sugar reduction, like almost a decade ago at this point, where it's like there was calls to reduce sugar before it became a mainstream argument. And when I was working in cereal, it was like you were seeing that added protein before added protein became a big trend. You were seeing fiber addition. And I was even at the time, not as often, but even supplemental, people were trying to get supplemental claims in their cereal where they wanted it to be a good source of a vitamin or a good source of something else.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily one of your fortifications that were like FDA labeling requirements.
And so you touched a little bit on adding the other healthfulness ingredients into cereal and adding protein as well. Have you tried some of those products out there or have some ideas on how to add in?
It's really interesting the different approaches you see with it. Actually, it's like oddly exciting for me because you see like I feel like taste still is king, right? People want their stuff to taste good, even if it's healthy for you. So when you see like the high protein cereals, a lot of times you'll see it introduced either in a crisp format. So sort of in that like not textured like Proterra, but still an expanded crisp that's fortified with protein. Although I've seen the new protein cereals that have like the sheeted lower carb, higher protein formulas that are using like wheat protein isolate, which is great. Or you're seeing it introduced in like in bakery mixes. You'll see fortified proteins. I personally prefer when they use whey or wheat proteins because they are blandest in flavor and they already fit the flavor profiles of baked goods and cereals. But I have seen pea is very popular for its non-allergen and things like that.
Well, not non-allergen, low allergen. Let's not make that distinction right there.
Fair.
So for other ways to fortify with protein, I guess we've also tried with adding our Proterra or textured protein into various cereals. So adding a little different texture, a little bit of a crunch, and also
I think that's huge on that crunch aspect for sure.
Yes. Yeah, really helps out.
And chew, I bet it also gives it a little bit of chew too.
But also when we see some of these newer products or sometimes limited time, different flavors that are added. Some are super exciting, but also sometimes I think as food scientists, we're a little critical. And at least for me, if Jen would come up to me and say, hey, there's this new cereal out there, it's not that good, and I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited to try it out. It's funny how I'm more excited about trying things that don't taste quite as good because as a food scientist you want to how can I fix this, how can I make this better?
It go wrong?
Right. Yeah. what on earth, right? Some of that is interesting to me because it's not only just preference, right, but it's like there's especially when you start talking sweetness modulators and like fiber additives, when you start talking about that, where if you're like you get something and you put in so much oat fiber it starts to taste like cardboard, or if you start in putting so much polydextrose it gets like brittle and yet somehow hard. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So I was wondering of other times that you actually eat cereal. Is it only for breakfast or?
No.
Well, I think that's the big question is
Mhm.
cereal still for breakfast? Because we
Mhm.
talked in the beginning, we were all eating it as kids. It was first started and thought to be like the healthiest thing you could have for breakfast, right? And we're seeing less of that now. And I would say people aren't eating cereal for breakfast as much anymore. We have, again, Jen, you hit on that convenience factor of, do you have time to sit down and pour and eat a bowl of cereal in the morning? Whereas a lot of people have adapted to, okay, here's a freezer burrito that I can put into the microwave and hit the 2 on it and load up my car and then come back and grab it and then we're on our way. And so I think that's a little bit of like, it's a convenience thing. It's not considered to be as healthy anymore as we've looked at the sugar amount that's in there and everything. So I think people are gearing away from cereal for breakfast, but I think people are definitely still eating cereal. Like, I think I already admitted to, I'm eating it for a snack to tie me over. I'm eating it as a dessert. Sometimes I get really excited during my dinner because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have Lucky Charms to look forward to after this. Like, it's like so exciting for me.
I was just at something the other day where, like puppy chow and where you're using it as a snack, almost as a dessert mix.
Yeah.
Like where was I the other day where someone had made like a cinnamon snack mix and it was different
like a
cinnamon
trail mix.
cereals that they had mixed together. And that was like a thing that you could get next to your puppy chow, next to your like everything bagel mix that had the rye chips. It was like they used it as almost like a snacking appetizer, like
the
a sweet
carrier. Yeah. Ugh, I love cereal.
I do too.
I hope it never goes away.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will, but I think you'll have that split, that like very distinguished split where you see it now with like your Premier Protein and your Catalina Crunch and your all of those high protein, healthy, like the healthy cereals that end up being there. And then you have your more indulgent cereals. What I think will be interesting to watch will be what happens to those brands that kind of focus in the middle, that try to be like that middle of the road cereal. Do they end up being the cereal that can be in both day parts or like be that midnight snack? Or is it something where they're going to start tooling their nutrition to try and fit into one of those categories?
My sweet, sweet spot. My dear father, he only eats cereal in the morning. Only. Like, he was raised that way. That's how he is. Even if we make a whole like sit down breakfast, he will grab his bowl of cereal and sit down with us. And he has this, I'm not going to remember what it is, but there is that fine line, that sweet spot that he's found, which is he has a very healthy cereal, however you want to define that. But it's healthier than we would say maybe some of our more snacky cereals. And it tastes like a high sugar snacky, like cereal. So it is exciting to eat. And I've even found myself being like, oh, I can't wait to eat that. Or like, oh, maybe I'll have that for after dinner. But it's like high protein, low carb. It's like essentially keto, but it's like it tastes like it's not.
Right. I'm excited to actually see those technologies evolve because like people want that healthier experience and they want to get that supplementation in where they can, especially like as we were talking like with millennials and aging trends and things, they're excited about brain health and things like that. So if you can get those things into a breakfast food, something that will give it some staying power or keep it relevant with the trends that are happening while still giving that indulgent experience, I think that'll be a good way to tie it back.
Right. And elevating mental performance. It looks like some breakfast cereal products are going towards that. Consumers are wanting that. And also
anti-inflammatory is a big one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I appreciate that it fits kind of with some of those, like when you talk about like spicy ginger and things like that, you can fit that into a breakfast cereal concept pretty easy with like a chai or something along those lines.
And consumers are also interested in, mood boosting too. It seems like some of the research out there, that's what the consumers are looking for because it's really that mental health is just as important as physical health. So if it's a breakfast cereal, you can wake up in the morning and it helps boost up your mood, why not start your day that way?
Right. It doesn't follow with the crash because I get very happy to have a bowl of sugary cereal, right? But then about an hour later, not only do I have the munchies, my sugar is crashed and I'm just like hungry, grouchy. Where's the coffee?
So also with some of the boxes we used to look at and see as a child, and because it's really that nostalgia and those icons that we see, and I think it's so fun that we still have those available today too. And so I just think that's amazing longevity of these types of products, that they are still around and we're used to it. And I think that it also leads towards us as food scientists. Maybe we have certain methodologies for eating these breakfast cereals. It seems
Always.
like for Jen, you like only a little bit of milk.
Oh, like a splash of milk, because I tend to like
The milk
crunch
is a
cow-
formality for
Yes.
Jen.
Yeah, like I like it in there. I like the coating of the cereal to be wet, but I don't want to
Mhm.
dissolve the sugar that's on it. I want it to be crunchy until the last bite.
Mm-hmm.
So, no sog for me, thanks.
Yes, and Rachel, you seem like have an equal ratio about.
Well, yes. For my
Close.
corn pops, we're going equal ratio, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely, it depends on the type of cereal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sitting over here sounding like a cereal connoisseur of sorts. I
Mhm.
promise I am no such thing.
I think everyone is.
Yeah,
Everyone is.
cereal is emotional for everybody. No, I would say that typically I go 50-50. There's other cereals where I actually want it like kind of drowning and like to make it a little more soggy. I'm not a big crunch person.
Well,
I
you
don't
have
love
at
the
it.
roof of my mouth being all cut up
I'm not
after
a
I
Captain
eat it.
Crunch like sharp person. Like that's
Okay, not
I'm
glassy.
No,
crunchy.
I don't. I like crunch, not glassy. Right. That.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I think that's also why I like corn pops too, is because it has that coating. And so like it keeps it crunchy, but the inside isn't like going to cut my mouth apart. But I heard somewhere that you're supposed to put the milk in before, which I know is like a cardinal sin of cereal, but for rice puffed cereals, you're supposed to put the milk in before and put the rice puffs on top. And that keeps it from getting like disintegrating, mushy
I could see
kind
that
of thing.
because it's so light density, it would float. So you
Yes.
literally are just like dunking your cereal into the milk rather than like
Yeah, I've
having
tried it.
sog.
Life changing. So I'm here to tell you, rice puff cereal, milk first.
Deal.
It feels wrong when you're doing it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Or if somehow we can just throw FiberSim in there,
Yeah.
increase the bowl life, then you
Yeah.
don't have to do that certain methodology.
True.
Yeah.
I'll get right on that for
Yeah.
you. I'll just run down to the
Uh,
extrusion plant, whip that up real
Wonderful.
quick. I'll be right back.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's talk about some other forms of cereals for breakfast or other dishes, like hot cereal.
Yeah. I was actually a Malto-Meal kid. Like I grew
Yeah.
up like, and I was again a weirdo kid, right? So you'd make it in the microwave when you get home, and if you didn't stir it like every 30 seconds, it would get lumpy. And I got
It's
to a
like
point.
oatmeal?
No, it's like a malted wheat porridge. Like
Wild. Okay. I'm not a hot cereal person.
I can't believe you've never had this.
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
so funny because I was definitely in the Malto-Meal camp, and my husband's in the cream of wheat camp, and so it's like
Oh, I know that one. Okay.
yeah, so it's
Mhm.
similar, but it's different. Like cream of wheat is just wheat, like, and then malted wheat is malted
Okay. Mhm.
wheat. Yeah, but I liked the malty the part, but it gets that lumpy, and I got to a point where I actually liked the lumpy.
I haven't seen hot cereals in a second.
I think they're coming back. Like I think with the trends in the way cereal is, like people want that lower sugar, healthier option, and oatmeal is great for that. I mean, you're seeing a huge rise of like customization and like overnight oat recipes and things like that, where you can just put that in, microwave it, and then you can put whatever other supplemental things in it. You can use whatever milk you want. You can use a protein shake. You can use like to get that fortification, and then you get a hot breakfast too.
I had a professor that absolutely scarred me from overnight oats. And he was a food safety professor and told me, you know how oats have that little crack in them?
Mhm.
He's like, think about how oats are handled and what can get stuck in that crack. And then you're going to add moisture and just feed that and let it grow overnight before you consume it. Now there are specific oats that I think are like pasteurized and like handled in such a way that allow for this.
Okay,
But when
so-
overnight oats started, I was scarred, absolutely scarred.
rolled oats are like they have 2 kill steps, not just one,
Yeah.
right? They're tempered and flaked. So unless they're really cross-contaminated in like packaging, you will not see anyone make that claim, but they are usually heat treated.
Yeah.
Twice.
Let's dive a little deeper into the healthfulness of cereals and also just, like protein, when we're adding protein to different food products. And because it seems like some individuals or consumers, they're leading towards other types of breakfast foods because it's more higher in protein. But there's ways to add protein to the breakfast cereals. But I was wondering if Rachel could get a little more in depth than that.
I think we are seeing a lot of emergence of these protein fortified cereals to kind of keep up with that. Just to preface, not a doctor, not a nutritionist, or not a medical doctor, I should say. But people are gearing towards having a high, like loading most of their 50 grams of protein in the day or whatever their target is, loading that up front in their day. So that can help with their satiety. It can help with energy. They're seeing improvements in health with it. I saw somewhere, again, I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, that people are claiming that it helps with their anxiety, it helps with their IBS, and especially having that before they let caffeine hit their stomach. So having a little bit of protein in there, 15 to 30 grams, is kind of what people are tending to target. That's huge. So people are turning towards, the breakfast sausage that has, 15, 20 grams of protein there for serving, or they're going towards, even like those meal replacers or like a protein shake on the side. And I think that's where cereal brands can keep up, is that they're hitting that protein fortification to satisfy those customers that maybe don't want to steer away from their cereal for breakfast, but they want those benefits of, uploading all of their or front loading, I should say, all of their protein early in their day.
I feel like that's true with the American diet, that protein is generally a dinner thing, right? Where you have your tri-meal of steak, potato, vegetable, right? With the steak being, your largest portion of your protein for the entire day. And I think as consumers get more knowledgeable about how much protein they're supposed to be consuming, and the fact that even if you eat an 8-ounce steak, your body's not going to be able to utilize all of that, and being able to redistribute those macros down into different day parts so your body has a better chance of utilizing the fuel that you're giving it. I think that you see that you'll see it come up more in breakfast. Have you tried any of those egg cups where it's you just crack an egg in it and mix it and microwave it? Are they any good?
Yes, I'm going to say they are good. I think I'm picky about my breakfast. I can't do, like I was talking about, I really, really like sugary cereal. But if I just have high sugar in the morning, like if I have French toast, pancakes or whatever, and nothing else, I'm more of a savory person. I think we know that now. So I like those egg cups, but I'm also a little particular about first morning wake up, the flavors there. So
that's fair.
I think that's something. I don't think everyone's as picky as I am in the morning, but when my stomach is just now jump starting up, I've got to have pretty neutral flavors in the morning. So having some of those Mediterranean or something like that, I'm ooh, not ready for that.
I fall into I either fall into a sweet category where I want oatmeal that's got peanut butter in it, or I want or I want a savory breakfast, and I tend to be cheese bagel, garlic herb cream cheese. I'm on the other end of that, where I'm spicy chorizo burrito for breakfast. Yes.
And also the on the go with that too.
Yeah, the on the go aspect of the cup or the burrito, where you have the ability to get that quickly or move with it.
Right. Well, I think so. That's what we were saying, is if you don't have time to sit down for a bowl, have you guys seen those cups where the dry cereal sits in one portion and the milk is in a different portion, and then you can eat cereal, you kind of eat it and mix it as you go, so it doesn't get soggy.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. Yeah,
all the innovations that come with it, or even bowls, specific bowls that are made so it won't get soggy right away. I don't know, it's kind of like a maze or something for breakfast cereal.
It's a slow feeder that you have for your dog.
It does seem like a slow feeder for my dog, for sure. Yeah, but so there's all those inventions inventions out there, especially for those who are maybe scarred as a child. You know, we were part of the Clean Plate Club. We were forced to finish our bowl of cereal before leaving the table. And now some individuals can't have cereal with milk, and it's really sad. So, you know, if we had that invention of that special bowl,
Yeah.
you know, we could have saved some lives from being
We
tormented.
save some cereals. From
Yes.
doom and gloom.
Exactly. And just going through the history of this, because we were talking about these on the go, and because when people are now having to go back to work after the stay-at-home mandate, you know,
Yeah.
then they have to get back used to that, you know, getting up early, having a quick breakfast, or maybe eating it on the go. But all the way to the origin of breakfast cereal. I think it was like 1863. Yeah, James Caleb Jackson. He was the first one to invent breakfast food. I guess he called it granola, and it was really helpful. So
That's so interesting because, like, my take on granola, like, is oat candy for most mainstream brands, right? But I feel like granola, when you say it like that, reminds me of like muesli, where it's like it's actually really lightly coated, and there's still flaked rolled grains, and they have that where there's multifunction to it, where you can put it in a bowl and add milk and eat it that way, or you can put it on a yogurt, or if you're really fancy, somehow get it on a salad and be like, grains in a salad, ooh, fancy. But
See, I'm not a granola person, but I do like muesli. And I
Mhm.
think that is going to be a huge thing here in 2024 too.
I
know we're not
hope
talking about
so.
trends on this
Right.
one,
Well,
but
it comes and goes. I feel like with oatmeal, you get like flavored oatmeal or on the go or pouches, things that are easy, convenient to do. And then I'm hoping you'll see similar like that with muesli, where it'll come and go with flavors, or like, you know, if hot cereal's out this year, then it might be muesli's in, or like things like that. It'll be interesting to see.
these things though also still don't hit on that protein fortification though. So we're not hitting on that.
Well, I've seen some of that in the oatmeal cups. I've seen them use, again, protein crisps
Yeah.
to sort of fortify that way. I like the way it delivers, because sometimes if you use the protein powder specifically, they can turn into almost like
Chalky.
ricotta. It gets chunky and kind of like awkward, right? Or
Yeah.
mouth
If
coating.
there's anything I know about protein powders, it's that they will take up that water.
Right, and they're sticky,
Yep.
and then they get chunky. And so, but adding it as a crisp is nice in that regard. But then, I mean, and it gets mushy anyway, and people are expecting their oatmeal to be like
Mushy.
mushier than.
I'm not an oatmeal person.
See, I tend to be like a number 3 oat person, like something that's like thicker rolled. So
It's
that
funny
it's
you don't like
chewier.
mushy cereal, but you'll go for oatmeal.
and
Yeah.
Jen also has a specific number too.
Yeah,
attached
a number
to
3
it.
oat. Yeah,
Yes,
so that
not
thicker rolled. I
not
don't-
number 1 and 2, huh?
I think
What's
those
the
would-
difference?
So the larger the number, the thinner the roll. So if you're talking a number 3 oat, a number 4 oat is roughly your standard old-fashioned oat, right? When you get down into quick oats, those are thinner rolled and smaller pieces. So those tend to be, they're still flaked oats, but they're thinner, right? And then I like steel cut oats are actually, cut as a berry before they're flaked, or not flaked at all. So I tend to prefer flaked because I don't like to cook them for 45 minutes. But I like thicker oats because it has the better chew.
Convenience factor, 45 minutes.
Right?
I'm not doing that.
Mm-mm.
Well, thank you so much, Jen and Rachel, for joining me today talking about breakfast cereal on Straight Talk about smart food.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
MGP's food scientists are here to solve your culinary challenges. Contact us to discuss how we can help provide delicious solutions for you. Go to mgpingredients.com and click Contact Us.
This content is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as, nor is it a substitute for, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your diet, health, and/or medical condition. The decision to purchase any food products is entirely at the discretion of the customer. Reference to any specific food products in this podcast does not constitute an endorsement by MGP. MGP Ingredients Inc. acknowledges that third-party trademarks referenced in this podcast are the registered trademarks or service marks of their respective owners. Reference to such third-party trademarks is not intended to apply any affiliation, endorsement, sponsorship, or relationship between MGP and the respective trademark owners.